That's what he said that I needed to do.
No. It's working. Ooh, look at that.
Once I did that, I can use legally.
No, you have to stay until.
Legally?
Yeah.
How'd you know?
Because you
Watch
told
him
me.
walk out the door in your bright pink sweatshirt.
Live?
What?
Live?
Yeah, we're live. Let me make sure that this is playing audio.
I'll play it on
I'll record all of it. We'll put a little montage. It'll just be called
It says that it's live right now.
So get all the tough stuff done before 9, right? I think conclusion.
What's this a gaming?
Link to YouTube gaming. It should be sending data. Everything's set up, and it is receiving it here.
Is there something that's like we have to click like publish or like?
I mean, it says live. It's like
Okay. Interesting.
live. Let's see.
Just sent you to the bottom there.
Yeah.
Does anyone here stream and understand how this works?
Hey Chase, do you stream?
Do I stream?
Yeah.
Does anyone stream?
I know there's someone here. Yeah. Because it says that it is, but it's not.
Rush Limbaugh, Bailey.
Oh, we're live right now already.
Yeah, it says that, but I can't pull it up on my computer. It just doesn't. It's not pulling anything up.
Be on YouTube tonight.
Hey, what's our YouTube channel?
Right, it's 8:05. Let's call this meeting of the Alpha Housing Corporation to order. My name is Rob Sutton. I'm the president of the Housing Corporation. Welcome to, well, you guys are all here, but welcome to Rolla. Yeah, we are starting an hour earlier than our normal Housing Corporation meeting. The thought was it would give us an opportunity to get people out to the parade, and it always seems like we've got folks scooting out partway through the meeting when we start at 9. I know it's pretty early for folks that have to come in from out of town, but thanks for being here this morning. In general, I think things are going well from both the chapter and housing corporation perspective. We pretty much wrapped up the fundraising campaign associated with the chapter house. Obviously, we've been in it now for over a year, so there's a few remaining outstanding pledges in the kind of in the queue for people to pay in, but in general, we have gotten through all of the actual money from the pledges that people made for the chapter house in the housing court treasurer's report. Larry didn't send that to you. Well, so during his report, I'll give a report on what we have. He has most of the accounts. Larry Thomas, who manages the foundation account, which is the tax deferred account or tax free account that a lot of people have paid into. We've actually got some money in there as well. So we need to figure out how we handle that money. It was during the building, it was used to build, I'll call it, educational portions of the house. Now that the house is built, we have to figure out how we, without taking any tax penalty, move that money in so we can actually use it for the operational expenses of the chapter. That's kind of an aside. In general, it looks like things are going well around here. One of the big discussions today, and probably the biggest topic of discussion that we have on the schedule, is a proposed separation of the Housing Corporation and Alumni Association. Just to kind of give a quick review of what we mean by that. For the longest time, pretty much since I've been involved, Alpha Delta has operated with one alumni organization, where the Housing Corporation really served as not only the keepers of the chapter house, it's kind of business like to think of it this way, but the landlords of the chapter house, but also as the alumni association, so the conduit to engage with post-collegiately with the brothers of the fraternity. A few years ago, a number of our brothers went to a couple of different meetings where the international fraternity is looking to encouraging chapters across the nation to separate. We already have a separate alumni advisory board for the chapter, but they're encouraging chapters to separate their housing corporation into a group that's focused just on the execution of house care related duties, and then an alumni association which focuses on the engagement of the brothers after graduation. So we have a motion on the table from Homecoming to introduce a set of articles of incorporation for a new alumni association and housing corporation, and the bylaws associated with those different organizations. To 99% of the alumni, you would see no difference. It will function in a similar way. It's just that there would actually be two sets of officers and a set of officers for the Alumni Association that would be wholly focused on trying to encourage more alumni engagement with themselves, with the chapter to some extent, but with themselves as well, and to try and keep the alumni better informed on a regular basis of what's going on here, and more participation from a larger fraction of people, just even in social activities down here in Rolla over the course of the year. We have, at the Centennial, we had an amazing turnout. We had like a year and a half ago, but we had almost 200 brothers here. That's probably 10 times the amount that I had seen at any other time when, in the 25 plus years that I've been involved with the chapter. And one of the things we'd like to do at the Alumni Association is try and find ways to encourage more brothers to come back, even if it is just for a social engagement with not only their own generational brothers, but with you guys who are here in the house, and build that bond across the generations. Try and push for that more and more. There's also well, I'll let people, when we get into the discussion, I'll let people elaborate more. But that's one of the big pieces of business that we have today, because that was tabled at homecoming. Otherwise, I think that is it for the president's report. Can we go around the room, please, and just give your name, Alpha Delta number, and where you're from, or a piece of information that someone might be interested in. So my name is Rob Sutton, Alpha Delta 1158. I live in Kirkwood, Missouri, so one of the suburbs of St. Louis. Master's in mechanical engineering in 2000, and worked for Boeing in St. Louis.
Zach Moore, I'm the Housing Corps Treasurer, Alpha 1394. Graduated May 2017. I'm up at Soulard, St. Louis.
Lane by, Alpha Delta 1430. I'm our current High Alpha, originally born in Kansas City.
Robert Wolf, I'm the High Tog here, Alpha Delta 1462, and I'm from Chesterfield, Missouri. Asher Grunbacher, I'm Graham Myrell, Alpha Delta 1483. I'm from New City.
Steve Samansky, Alpha Delta 788, graduated back in 1974 when the Earth was cooling. I've worked for U.S. Steel for 42 years, just retired, but then, just like the movie The Godfather, they brought me back. So I'm back working with them temporarily, live in Chicago.
James Castle, Alpha Delta 1179. I actually live in Rolla and get a doctorate of mechanical.
Al Fanger, Alpha Delta 609. Live in St. Louis. My degree was in civil engineering with a minor in metallurgical engineering, and I got into the oil business, 100% into the oil business. So keep your mind open.
Scott Green, Alpha Delta 1176, live in St. Louis area and work for a Carlton Corporation construction company in the area.
David Nauman, Alpha Delta 1461. I'm a computer engineer.
Connor Colander, Alpha Delta 1460. I'm a sophomore in environmental engineering.
Chase Patterson, Alpha Delta 1490. I'm a freshman majoring in electrical engineering, and I'm from Buffalo, Missouri.
Eric Willard, Alpha Delta 1433. I'm a graduating senior in computer science from St. Louis, Missouri.
James Nelson, Alpha Delta 171. Currently live in Dayton, Ohio.
Ivan Booth, Alpha Delta 1474. Sophomore in the email department.
Joseph Kaufman, Alpha Delta 1463, in the St. Louis, South Bend area, bio major.
Brandon Thomas, associate member from Kirkwood, Missouri, and major in electrical engineering.
Tyler Frank, Alpha Delta 1473. I'm a current High Theta from Winston, Missouri.
Zach Fullerdick, Alpha Delta 1487. I'm the current High Sigma from Valley Park, Missouri.
Rod Zola. I live in O'Fallon and I've gone skydiving.
Scott said he couldn't see it. Scott asked you. Bring it up again.
Justice
Clevenger, South 1457, sophomore mechanical engineer, and I'm in St. Louis.
I'm Gil Baker. I'm Alpha Delta 1480. I'm a Kenny. I live in Imperial, Missouri, South St. Louis.
I'm Nathan Biggers, Alpha Delta 1478. I'm also from Kirkwood, Missouri. Justin Bob, Alpha Delta 1445. I'm a senior in chemical engineering from Springfield.
And South 1471. I'm a major in Ohio.
Name is Cam, Alpha 1448, from Waterloo, Illinois, sophomore in civil engineering.
State Treasurer, Alpha Delta 1403, electrical engineering, graduated December 2017. South City area, St. Louis, like 100 yards from the county, from the city lines, so previously was. Why not add in a couple of years on?
I'm Noah Lieberman, Alpha Delta 1448. I'm a junior chemistry major and from the St. Louis area.
Josh Robin, Alpha Delta 1492, from Oakville, St. Louis, and freshman in electrical engineering.
I'm Sean Buckingham. I'm from 1405.
Drew Bernstein, an associate member, and I'm a mechanical engineer. Thomas Kavinsky, I'm 1489. I'm a freshman in aerospace engineering.
Eric Wenger, Alpha 1494. I'm a freshman in chemical engineering.
Kenny Dillard, Alpha Delta 1479, I'm a freshman in electrical engineering. Andrew Schuster, Alpha Delta 1484, current high epsilon, and I'm from Springfield, Missouri.
I'm Justin Palermo, Alpha Delta 1470, and I'm a sophomore in civil engineering.
I'm Brendan Morales. I'm Alpha Delta 1442. I'm a graduating senior in architectural engineering.
Alpha 1476. I'm a sophomore in biology. I'm Mason Hoffman, Alpha 1475. I'm mechanical engineer.
I'm Steven Krasky. I'm a junior in environmental engineering, and I'm grown and raised in Carl, Missouri. Oscar Robertson, Alpha 1453, junior in mechanical engineering. And from Northern Missouri.
Who do we have online?
We've got Kevin Schwalge. Yeah.
Okay.
He says that it's working right now. Scott said it wasn't earlier, but it might change.
So we have Kevin Schwalge online. I know Scott Preston. Scott Preston's also on the phone here with us. Anyone else?
We got two new, just one.
We do. Please remember to sign the book just before you get out of here. Get out of here today. I'm gonna have you guys introduce yourselves as well. We just went around the room. Sorry.
You guys introduce yourselves. Do the last three.
Gene Banger, Alpha Delta 580, live in St. Louis, Missouri, retired. Mike Kruger, St. Louis, Alpha Delta 610.
Chuck Chapin, St. Louis, 608.
Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on to the Vice President's report.
I think most of my comments will be covered when we get involved in the changes that we're proposing to the organization. I'll defer that until then.
Okay. James, Secretary.
Make sure you sign the book, please. Other than that, there is a copy of the minutes from homecoming here. They're not particularly wonderful. And then we have the agendas for today, if anybody wants the agendas for what we're going through. But basically, we're going through all the reports, and then the new business that Robbie's already brought up.
Okay, any questions for the Secretary? Okay. Seeing none, move on to the Treasurer's report. Oh yeah, I guess. So, I don't know if anyone's had a chance to read through the minutes at all for the homecoming meeting. Do we have any? Do we have a motion to approve the minutes? If you have. Okay. Second. Okay. All those in favor of approving the homecoming minutes, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed. Now, Trevor.
Alright, hey guys. Sorry I couldn't get the budget printed off today. So I'm gonna kind of walk through it real quick. The big changes from last year are our insurance and our property tax. Our insurance didn't go up as much as we thought it would. It's sitting around 16,000. And then personal property tax went up pretty significantly, and it's sitting around 12,500, 12,600, something like that. Of course.
While you're fixing that, to all the officers, if you have anything printed or anything you can send, if you email it to me, I can paste it into the minutes for this one.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, it's all good. I'll take a picture of that for you.
So our budget, our 18-19 budget, is sitting at $180,000. That's $90,000 per semester from the fraternity. Most of that's going right to the mortgage loan, goes straight to that, and then the last 10,000 is coming straight to our operating account for us to operate with. Pay taxes, yeah. House spending since the last meeting has been much. We're redoing the locks in the house, getting them all on same keys and stuff. And we decided to pay for it this time, but from now on it's on the house to keep track of the keys, and if they want to redo locks or anything like that, it's on them to pay for it. Just a couple Pennington bills that have come in or have been sent to me from Leonard and Chuck. 2,400. That's just general upkeep, and I think maybe another lamp went out. I think possibly.
It did, yeah. Well, there's actually one went out in the fall. There's another one that went out in May.
Zach?
Yep.
Are we still planning the heaters, heater flip, every twice time, 2 times every year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have that handle. I think that actually should come here. The chapter is now budgeting that for that this year. Right? So I believe I talked with Carter and last year about that. Construction, the mortgage, we're sitting at 2.9 million, a little over, roughly that. Sort of gradually paying it down. It's going down. Yeah. So we're gonna keep hitting that. Our accounts as sitting, operating, 57,700. The reserve account, 38,500. Our Pennington account, which is our educational fund, is 1,906. And then I wasn't able to get an updated total the Alpha Delta Zeta account, but last time I looked, it was sitting at about $156,000.
New one as of yesterday. Larry sent me the numbers. It was 159,494.42.
Okay. And then the pledge drive for the new house. So pledge to the corporation was a little over 1.8 million. We received 1.78 million from that. And pledge to the foundation was 683,000, and we received 439,000 of that. And of the 83 pledges we had, we received 67. So we're looking at about 16 pledges that we're waiting to, I think, finish or come in.
Yeah, there's a couple. The outstanding ones, but they're anonymous. Yeah, they're identified as being. No, you're good. You're good unless you're one of the anonymous ones. So there
You
were.
can always add another anonymous.
Right. Yeah, the two actually big outstanding ones are marked as anonymous in the Pennington in their information. So I don't know who those are, but I think those there's one on the foundation side and one on the housing core side, and I don't remember the details, but they're both over $10,000.
Are these ones that are just spread out over multiple years? Because I know that was the option when we got the original pledge state, was something to spread them out. So
we're basically at the end of the 3-year period at this point. So there are folks who are still paying in. We've also been trying to resolve with Pennington. There's a couple of folks, like I know I've paid mine off, yet it still shows that I owe one payment. There was another brother. I think I have a couple of times. They keep tricking me. So. There's a little bit older alumni brother who he had all of his canceled checks from where he had paid off. They didn't have him book out, but in general, I think we're down to the last handful of folks under this drive.
I get an email from Larry Thomas every now and then with a couple checks that come to him. He makes a copy and sends it to me, and Pennington sends copies.
Hey, we're still willing to take money.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So one of the things that, and I don't know, maybe we save the discussion to homecoming. When we generally have a larger crowd, just because of the nature of the meeting and everything going on campus. But at some point, we probably need to start thinking about how we want to address future fundraising for the housing. Obviously, we just did a big fundraising drive. We don't want to walk around necessarily with our cap out. But we have had a couple of folks who have actually requested, is there a way they could be giving on on an annual basis, on a regular basis, kind of the way we set up things with the capital drive, and the answer is yes. We just we need to think through how we can make that easy for the alumni to be paying into the organization for future upkeep. I mean, that's one of the things that, I mean, the house is fantastic now, but one of these days we're gonna end up having big repair bills again as things age and you have 70 men living in the house on a regular basis. Hopefully that's a few years down the road, but as of right now, we don't have active fundraising efforts, active outward fundraising efforts going on per se. But you're always welcome to make a contribution to the Housing Corporation.
That's pretty much it for me. We're wrapping up tax. Last thing we need to get done for our tax is. That's all I got.
Any questions for Housing Corporation Treasurer?
What is the status of audits? Audits?
With regard to auditing us,
do we get audits? And do we have audits? Did it pass muster?
The short answer is I don't know that we've done one in a long time.
Chuck, do you remember?
In my tenure, we never had an audit.
So we'd obviously be open to an audit in the case of. So in the past, we've talked about small team doing audits on the chapter. I don't know that we talked about an audit of Housing Corporation, but yeah, I'd certainly be open to ideas on how we do that.
Do you think it's something we should set up?
I think it is. I mean,
Yeah.
you think about just the foundation alone, we're talking about somebody sent a check in, doesn't know they have it, where'd the money go? And it's probably all in the right places, but it sure would be nice to know.
Okay, we'll take that as an action too. Okay, thank you. Is there a, let's see, we already approved the budget at homecoming, so don't need to approve it again here. We'll do that homecoming for next year, unless there's any other questions. Nope. Okay. Moving on. Scott, you have a high report? Sort of. We can. I don't know if anybody else can. Go ahead.
No, we are not.
Were you going to touch on at all any of the discussion with regard to campus and move out penalties and anything like that?
I can talk about that as well.
Either you or I can.
We can bring it up however you'd like to.
Let's wait until yours.
Okay.
There's some stuff you all ought to know that's going on from a system-wide, University of Missouri system-wide perspective. That will affect recruitment and we have given our. We'll wait until the
I'll do it at the end of my report. Had a lot of meetings about it.
Anything else, Scott? Yeah, we've had there's a number of relatively influential alumni. We haven't had any of the really big hitters like, say, Jim weigh in on it yet, but I know Robert Hoffman, who has been long the Housing Corporation president for Cap City, has been a very vocal proponent for the Greek system and pushing back to what extent we can on some of the things that will affect the Greek system. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more. There's stuff worth reporting, but we'll wait till the high office report to do that. Okay. Anything else? No academic advisor, rush counselor, high office.
All right. Good morning, everyone. First thing, I'll put all of that information at the end of my report just so I can get through all this stuff first. First of all, welcome to our 19 new brothers that were initiated in January. So if you were initiated this semester, go ahead and stand on up for us. So our new high number is Alpha Delta 1495, and that is Brother Salem. So congratulations, guys. On to recruitment. Our recruitment goal for this summer into fall is 25 new members. This number will allow us to move out some of our older guys and some guys that have talked to me about some financial hardship stuff. So that way, instead of having to have a big exec meeting about it, we can just go ahead and let them move out because the house will be full. We won't have to worry about that GPA, we had a 2.934 GPA for the fall semester. That was below the all-men's average of a 3.0. The active member average was a 3.03. So one of the ways that we're addressing that is we're now actually having everyone submit a grade sheet to the High Sigma every single week on Sunday nights. That way we're kind of watching out, and if we notice that a guy is struggling, we can find him the proper tutors or options to help him improve some of his grades. So really working hard on getting that back up because we're now falling towards the bottom of the list of fraternities and sororities. On a more positive note, at the end of last semester, we were actually in 4th place in IMs on campus, so we're performing pretty well in that. We're getting most of our points in the esports category, but we're showing up for the rest. It's on the esports category, so like video games. But hey, we're winning. Another positive thing, we had our first annual trivia night that we shared with SIGEP this semester. Well, we split the profits. We got $302.50 to give to Feeding America. So for a first time event, we enjoyed that money coming in. Some project reports. As you guys can see, the mural has been completed. Deck furniture was delivered and assembled at the beginning of the semester. And right behind us, we have a permanent stage that was put together the last couple weeks by brothers Jones Carlisle, DeRunce, and McCann. So we're using that for socials and just pretty much anything. The next thing that we're kind of focused on, our next big purchase, is a fridge that we can use to store all of our food and leftovers. That way we can go ahead and give all the space that's in the kitchen over to the chef because he's cooking for more people now, and fridge and freezer space is kind of getting tight. I don't know if you guys saw, but we do have a small white deep freeze that we use for any of our freezer food. We like to have a fridge as well for our leftovers. And the final thing I have before I get into the fee changes is I will be meeting. Normally we announce the Burroughs-Meyer scholarships at this meeting, but he has been exceptionally busy this spring, so we're actually talking to him. The Alumni House staff and I are giving him a call next week, so we will send out that information in a newsletter or whatever, so you guys can see which guys are getting those scholarships. So does anyone have any questions on any of that before I get into the...
Yeah, how many of the associates did not make grade?
We had 6 out of 25.
And do you know what their grade point was that they had?
I do. And we have talked with each of them about it, and each of them is taking steps to improve that for this semester.
Were any of them below 2 points?
I believe of the ones that were retained, we had a couple guys that left and fell well below a 2.0. I don't know if they stayed at the school or not, but they had already decided to leave the chapter before the end of the semester. And then only 1 out of the 6 that stayed was below a 2.0, but there were some additional circumstances involved in that. So we talked with him, and he has made a couple changes, so we don't think that it's going to be an issue again. So.
Was anybody above a 2.5?
No. None of them were. It was between 1.5 and 2.4. So.
Thank you.
Any others? Okay, so fee structure changes for university housing and university approved housing. So as you guys probably know, university housing is all the dorms. It's everything that they sell, and then university approved housing is all Greek housing, and it is the Christian Campus Fellowship. So we fall under that university approved housing. In the past, at any time, in order to help keep the dorms from filling, if a P&M decided to sign a bid card and join a fraternity, they would be allowed to cancel their commitment with university housing and move right into one of the university approved housing options. That is being changed this year, and they are instituting a fee structure to account for some of the losses that they've taken the last couple of years. They just recently built University Commons, the brand new dorm, and they actually have space for everyone now. We actually started last fall semester, I think they said, with 112 open beds. So now they have empty rooms, and they're wanting to recoup some of the losses. So starting at June 1st, prior to June 1st, there's no fee for canceling your contract with University Housing. But starting June 1st to July 15th, any incoming student that cancels that contract will be paying $200. From July 15th to the Saturday prior to O week, it is $400, and then after that Saturday, which is move-in day, it is $600 to cancel their commitment with University Housing. I have sat in on several meetings, and it's not something that they're going to take away. This is the fee structure that they're going to use. And actually, we're getting a bit of a benefit because apparently, for anyone not moving into University approved housing that cancels after that Saturday of the week, it's actually $900. They're giving us a 33% discount on that. So it's still $600, but at least it's not $900, I guess. And another way that the Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life is trying to help us is they are running an Intent to Go Greek program. So anytime a student comes for their pro day in the spring, they're told about the Intent to Go Greek program, and then a week or two after their pro day, they're sent an email saying, hey, would you like to register for the Intent to Go Greek program? And basically what they're saying is, I'm interested or I'm considering joining a Greek house, and until July 15th, that fee will be waived. So if they apply prior to June 1st to that program, they don't have to worry about the $200 fee as long as they sign prior to July 15th. There is an option for an extension, but right now there are only 28 spaces for that extension. And the way that extension works is if they're closing in on the July 15th date and they really haven't settled out where they want to go, but they know they want to go Greek and they're just looking at a couple different houses, they will be given a temporary room on the first floor of TJ, which is why they only have 28 beds. And that will waive that $400 fee as long as they sign prior to the end of the first week of classes. So it's pretty confusing and it's very, very complicated, and I'm not really sure how it's going to work yet because it's the first year. But really what this means for us is recruitment has to happen now. And I can say that Luke, our High Delta, has been going out and we're setting up recruitment events for next week and the week after while we're on spring break, while people are home in St. Louis and whatnot. We've had 2 pretty good pro days. I know we have some big cards that are already out. I don't believe we have any signed yet, but it is still early in the spring. We typically don't get signed big cards back until closer to graduation, because that's what high school students are focused on right now. But we're trying to get our name out there, get in contact with guys coming to school, and just get as much information as we can about them and get them on board.
A quick question for the Housing Court Treasurer on this one. Is there any chance that the Alpha Delta Zeta Foundation money can be used to, are any of these fees considered educational expenses? I hate to have us have a hard time filling the house because people are having trouble being charged money to join the house, basically.
Seems like an investment that's worth it if you get the
Yeah.
fees or whatever.
Yeah.
A couple $100 probably. And just to make it clear to the alumni, this is the entire UN system. It's not just the S&P campus.
Yeah, I'm just looking in terms of, I don't want to have anything keeping people from joining Lander County coming in house here. And if this is something that we can do something about, maybe we can do something about it.
Yeah, there has been as I mentioned before, a tremendous amount of across the UMR, MST, Greek alumni community pushback with regard to this. I know that there's a group of alumni advisors and housing corporation folks that have been on numerous email chains, numerous phone calls to discuss this, and there's generally universal pushback from the fraternities and sororities to some extent, but it is being driven down from the board of curators of the university for this to happen. So at least as of right now, we're being told this is what's happening. I guess we'll have to see how things go. This may be one of those things where it's worth us engaging some of our more high-powered and university-giving alumni to to push back.
What's the current charge here with the house bill?
$4,000 a semester.
4,000? So that's the number we're playing with.
10% of that would be the fee, right?
Yeah.
That's what you'd lose if we don't get it.
That's right. Yep.
That's
Hey, Rob, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Hey, so I've been working with a group of alumni, and Robert Huffman, you mentioned him. There's Mike Carney, there's a few others that are engaging with Matt Coco and several other people on campus on this. We can try to influence it with some of our guys. I don't think it's going to make much difference. I think there's several alumni that push it back. I think they're kind of set their ways. And then another piece I would say is, if the chapter doesn't make the recruitment, I've talked to Lynn about this and Luke, and we don't get that number before the cutoff date, I think the chapter's going to eat that cost and pay that to bring those members in. If it costs us $50 to bring in a member, we're still getting $4,000 on the backside. So it's going to eat into that budget, but it's better than having nobody sit in a bed.
Right, and I believe that's what they were talking about with the educational foundation, to see if we could go into that as well. So that might be another option. We just have to look into whether that's doable.
Have to see whether that's an allowable.
Right, yeah.
An allowable.
Right.
It seems like
Or
that.
the chapter eats it out of the
Right,
members.
right, and that'd be again plan B for that.
Well, if we think about it, if a guy's staying for 8 semesters as well, and assuming, I mean, house bills will go up in the future, but assuming it's $4,000 a semester, that's $32,000. So eating 400 on the front end, that's chump change at the end of the day. And we could just, honestly, it wouldn't even be necessarily that we would have to pay it out of our bank account. We just knock it off that guy's house bill for that first
And just
semester.
take like $100 off a month or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. If we split it up, it's actually a lot better for our budget. Because everything is front loaded, the way our bills come in, it's front loaded on the first 2 months of the semester.
Take it off a monthly, amortize it.
Right, that would actually be very doable.
Bottom line is, the brothers and alumni can still help, is have recruitment almost complete by June. So 25 members sign before school's let out. 25 members sign.
According to the S&P website, this place is a bargain and needs to be sold that way. The S&P website states that room and board on or off campus is $10,388. So you guys are saving $2,000 by living here.
Yeah,
You know, it's a slam dunk if we sell it.
Yeah, we've that has long been something that we've talked about, and even as we progressively grow the house bills over the years, we've kind of at best stayed with the inflation of the on-campus housing.
Yeah, we've historically been less than if you live
Substantially. Yeah, we went from being one of the with the old house, we went from being near the bottom of house bills to now we're kind of we're sort of bottom of the higher house bills. Yeah, the newer houses. So
still a bargain.
Still a bargain. Yeah.
That's what we need to sell.
In fact, almost all but maybe one of the fraternities is a bargain compared to on-campus housing. Okay.
So I'm actually pulling up the website here. The Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life is actually, they just put together this new thing where you can basically go on this website, on the MST website, and then it has the housing breakdown. So I'll show you what we have for ours right now.
Ooh, they got it all uploaded, because I know we
Yes. So any potential new member can go on this website and they can see the cost breakdown here. And then I believe, or it should have it used to have the comparison between what the dorms are and what we pay. So there's this too. And so all the potential new members, they can compare the cost between the different chapters here in terms of Greek life. And I still think we're very competitive with the prices that we have. So yeah.
Any other questions or discussions? Any other questions just in general for high alpha? Okay, see none, brother Hightaw.
All right, so I'm gonna go through the budget real quick here. Are those big enough? Those numbers, or I can zoom in a little bit.
Kind of hard to see.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's very bright. Hit the front lights, someone, please.
So this is the budget that we have for this semester. We have 58 members in the house right now, and we have 5 out of house. So that's the income that we have coming on right now. And I'll scroll down a little bit. So looking at our overall budget for the entire semester, we're running about a $2,000 deficit just because that's the way it usually works with the spring, just because spring recruits aren't generally a big thing here. But other than that, we've got our income coming in and the expenses are also there. So we're staying on track with all of those, and I'll run through the different budgets we have for officers and other things like that. So High Alpha is mostly dealing with miscellaneous things here and there, buying nationals a meal when they come and visit us at the chapter, other miscellaneous things like that, trying to keep the High Zeta encouraged and motivated to do their job and all that. So he's got a couple $100. High Beta, we gave him some money so we can do a Brotherhood retreat later this semester. High Theta, most of that money is going to be for Watermelon Bash, and then once we generate all the profits and stuff from that, that'll go to Feeding America, and a lot of his budget just ends up being a donation on our half. High Gamma, we recently purchased some new mailboxes over next to the dining room. High Taw, I'm going to be purchasing a safe, so I'm not just having $80,000 in checks on my desk, so we'll be throwing those in the safe soon. High Iota, that's miscellaneous first aid, that's going to be fire inspections, fire extinguisher inspections, things like that. High Rho, that's the breakfast this morning. High Kappa, that's any activities related to making sure all of our associates are being educated in the right ways and we can do fun activities with them and that sort of a thing. High Delta, that's going to be meals for potential new members, that's going to be Cardinals tickets, that's going to be just anything like that for potential new members, making sure that they're staying interested with us. High Phi, that's going to be your ritual supplies. High Sigma is a lot of apple polishers, so we do a meal for professors and we invite them to come to the house and give them a nice steak dinner, so that's the money he's got. We have Epsilon, so any of our social activities, lights and audio, all of that sort of stuff is in High Epsilon. Houseman, that's going to be all of our chemicals for cleaning, other things for cleaning, mops, brooms, anything like that. Business representative, that's the food that we eat on the weekends since the chef isn't here on the weekends, so we purchase food out of his budget and cook it, and then he also buys miscellaneous paper plates, things like that. IM Man, he pays for the IM fee so we can participate in intramurals during the semester, as well as any sports equipment that we might need as a house. Games chair, that's money there for making sure we're participating in St. Pat's and Greek Sing and getting the supplies we need to stay competitive in those. Formal Action Committee, that's going to be our booking when we go to formal. So this year we're going to Branson. It's going to be a nice time. And then scrolling down here to other things like national dues. So national dues, we have to pay a whole bunch of these fees. And the nice thing here is when our ELC was here earlier this semester, he said we had one of the lowest risk management assessments that he's ever seen. So we got about half the price that their base price is at, and we could even get that down further if we didn't have a chapter house. So he said this is. You say that, yeah. If you have a chapter house, that's $30 out of the $60 right there. So we're paying $60 a member for insurance there, initiation fees, things like that's going on.
Still pretty good.
Oh, it's a good deal. But one of the lowest he's ever seen. He was absolutely blown away when he came in. So we have payments to the Housing Corporation for the mortgage. We pay IFC to become or to continue to be a chapter in IFC, and then we have a reserve fee just in case there's an emergency. We're just building up a good chunk of change in case we just run out of money and some huge project hits us. So we have that money there. Looking at utilities, we have RMU, which is your water and electric. You have Ameren, which is gas. Ryco is the printer that we have. CoinMatch is the laundry machines and laundry services. Fidelity is our cable TV and things like that. Internet is internet. College Chefs is the chef. Innovation Mechanical is the people that comes if the laundry machine breaks down and we gotta replace some part or something. That's what they're there for. Hilliard is all of our paper supplies for the bathroom, toilet paper, soap, that stuff. So, Steve's Pest Control. Ecolab is a lot of our cleaning chemicals. Cox Brothers deals with our refrigerators and stove and things like that. Legacy Financial is something that we implemented in the most recent year. It's been operating for a year now, so instead of collecting dues just on paper, we have an online system now, so brothers can log into the website and it's really easy for them to just do a bank-to-bank transfer, or they can just charge a credit card. Makes it really easy if people don't want to deal with checks, and we're not waiting for checks in the mail that are taking 3 weeks to get here or anything like that. So it's really nice, but it is $3 a member per month, so a little bit of a cost there, but totally worth it in my opinion. It makes things a lot easier, and we can manage the numbers online. Flood plumbing, and then miscellaneous here. We have a pretty decent set of change set aside for this summer. We're gonna get all the floors waxed. We're gonna do a lot of deep cleaning in the house and hire professional services to do that, as well as paying all of the bills that are involved over the summer. GA, STED, Conclave, so we always send a couple of members of our chapter to a national conference, and we foot some of that fee for them just to make sure that they're not paying out of pocket for the planes and all that involved in going to that. For our IFC rep, we always pay for half of his jacket, or we pay for the full price of his jacket. Yeah, so we pay for the full price of the jacket, as well as St. Pat's. Contingency, those are all the miscellaneous things that don't fall into any of these budgets. And then we have our project for this semester. Since we were running a deficit, we only wanted to do a really small, not a huge project, but we were able to build this stage over here, and that's what we had for the project. So does anybody have any questions, or you want more explanation on the number? Yes.
How many members are owing money to the house?
We have 2 members that are they're not currently active members of the house that are behind, but we're still in contact with them and we're working with them on a payment plan. So that way we're getting it back, but they just can't foot it right now. Usually what happened was it was a financial distress for them to be in house. So they were, actually both of them were here for the 2 years, and then they were able to move off campus where it's actually cheaper. But so we're staying in contact with them, and we'll get the money back eventually.
So no one in the house is delinquent?
No one is delinquent, but we do have a couple of members on a payment plan because they can't pay the full $1,000 per month. So they're opting to either pay for it over the course of the summer or something like that. Any other questions? Oh, and as well, I'd like to mention we recently got reinstated for our tax exempt status. So a couple of years ago, 3 or 4, the TAW failed to file the Form 990, which you have to file every year for your status. So the IRS revoked our status, and we recently we got that back in February and have since filed last year's Form 990. So we're all up to date on that as well. Any questions?
Do you know how much you have outstanding in those?
It's about $3,000. It's really not. I think it's 2 and 1.4 or 5. All right, Hyro.
All right. I'll make it quick. Alumni, thank you for coming down. It's always a pleasure to meet you. 2 things in my term. One thing this semester, I'm going to try and visualize all the deposits that we have lying around. Possibly, we'll probably get those uploaded to a separate page on the website, so that anyone who wants to can go and look at them. Much easier than sorting through them in the room we have back there. And when we get around to organizing the living room, which I think we've been planning on doing either this semester or next semester, I'm going to work on organizing that room with all of our old plaques and yearbooks and sort of a dedicated space to memories and such, dedicated area for the alumni. Along with that, I'd like to try and plan an alumni event, maybe over the summer or next semester. Possibly something like a baseball game or a barbecue here at the house next semester. So if you have ideas for that, or if you're interested in that, let me know of any ideas. Other than that, that's it for me. Any questions?
Maybe you could tie it into Rush.
Yeah.
Alumni and actives and Rush guys.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, rather than two.
Yeah, we could have an alumni and potential new member event sometime in the summer.
Okay.
Anything else?
Okay, seeing none. No houseman here.
Yes, houseman sent me his.
Okay, so perfect.
Let me pull it up. All right, so Alex Kramer, two things. One that he created a Google form to take recommendations for house improvements, so people can submit either with their name or anonymously any improvements they want to see to the house. So anything that they see that they want to get fixed, they can just submit a form to him, and he reviews those as soon as he can and tries to get things fixed, so that we have a more responsive system actually fixing things that need to get fixed. Another big thing that he did, he reorganized the duties. And I think everyone can vouch that it's a much more streamlined system, rather than just have some people have last semester and before that some people had daily duties and some people had weekly duties. Now everyone has a daily duty and a Sunday night cleanup duty. So your daily duty is supposed to only take about 15 minutes, and your Sunday night cleanup is supposed to take around like half an hour to an hour. And this way, everyone's doing basically the same amount of work each day, and we've not had any issues with people complaining about them having to do a lot more work than other people as far as duties go. And that's all he has.
Is it all is it all one group of folks, or do you have it split into duty groups still?
It's still split into duty groups,
Okay.
but they're now organized to spread out the workload more evenly. So more intensive duties have more people on them.
Makes sense.
Any other questions?
Okay. Seeing none, move into committee reports. I don't think we have anything to report from the executive committee, House committee, finance committee, newsletter. We will have Lamb to Lamp coming out in the May time frame. Pennington, as we talked about at homecoming, we contracted with Pennington again in 2019 to manage our newsletters like we have the last several years. So we have recommended to them our spotlight alumni for the year, and Wayne and I both owe them articles by the 1st of April.
Yep. Yep.
So expect to see that in May time frame. We've gotten a little bit out of phase with having those ahead of the major events for the year. So I'm going to try and get back on track this summer to having that Lamb to Lamp come out prior to the major events of the semester. So prior to homecoming, prior to St. Pat's, but we got a little bit out of kilter a couple of years ago, and I haven't recovered yet. So look forward to the new Lamb to Lamp in May, and I think that's it from a newsletter perspective. Scholarship committee, I don't think there's anything there. Volunteer giving, nothing there. So old business. It's, so from an old business perspective, we have a tabled motion with regard to a separation of the Housing Corporation and the Alumni Association. The Board of Directors post the meeting here will be voting on whether we make that separation or not. But wanted to give folks an opportunity in the general forum to comment and then allow the directors to make their decision whether we want to make that move or not. I sent out the articles of incorporation and bylaws a week or 10 days ago to the different folks. Like I said earlier, it'll be largely transparent to the alumni and especially the actives at large. Once we would split the two organizations apart, the biggest difference is notionally you would have a different set of officers that are focused, one, on maintaining the house, and two, focused on alumni engagement. One of the big differences in reading through the bylaws versus our bylaws now is that the Housing Corporation, in the way the bylaws are currently written here, there is a max of 6 directors in this new set of bylaws, and 4 of those directors are the officers of the organization, whereas the Alumni Association is arranged more like the current Housing Corporation, where we have a much larger group of directors. So that means 4 officers plus two directors at large for the Housing Corporation. There has been some discussion amongst folks that a odd number of directors at large to make it so that you wouldn't necessarily have a tie vote if all the directors voted. May be an amendment to the current bylaws if we were to go that direction. But wanted to open up the floor to discussion of the separation of our current housing corporation into a housing corporation and an association.
Yeah, I wanted to make a couple of comments. About 3 years ago, I attended some national meetings on this specific issue, and what I learned was that there can be a lot of risk that the house itself could be put under by the acts of certain people that we don't see here. This house has been run so professionally, so well by so many leaders over time that we've almost become, I guess, removed from the challenges that other houses face. But it has been suggested very strongly that a separation makes sense. It creates, and I'm not a lawyer, so I won't try to explain everything, but creating a separate house corporation from the Alumni Association does create a layer of protection for the future of this house. Again, I would say that those before me have done such an outstanding job of running things here that we even wonder why we worry about these things, but they exist, and so I think from a legal standpoint, this creates a better environment for us. I'm also very excited about having maybe I'd call a more formalized alumni association. A lot of work has been done individually and by a lot of people throughout this organization. And I think that creating a specific alumni association could be very positive in terms of supporting the house and its future membership. So I guess open up for dialogue, but I just kind of want to give you a brief overview of what we're trying to do. Yes.
You keep speaking of alleged incidents that can be legal problems and be detrimental to the house, and I guess I'm naive. But, what are we talking about?
I think
What are these issues we're so
Well,
worried about?
I guess from what I understand, and I'm, I've, again, to say that I'm not an expert lawyer, but if you have a roster of a number of people involved in the housing corporation and one individual does something that may cause distress, that is putting the house at risk. So I think that creating
okay, pardon me, maybe
So-
I'll
so
make
I-
it a little simple. What are we talking about them doing? Are they going out and,
I didn't.
Say somebody ODs.
These are what?
So say something happens to somebody due to illegal action inside the house. The lawsuit happens with us being directly connected to the house. All the alumni are getting sued too, listed on the lawsuit. Is my understanding how that this provides a layer of protection for the house from the alumni and from the alumni from the house if something insanely stupid happens.
And I want to go back to what Rob said earlier. We asked lawyers to put together some documents about how many members we should have. If we're not affixed to that, if, as said earlier, if we want to add or make some adjustments to that, we're open to it. We don't want to make this overly exclusive. If people are passionate about this, which I know many of you are, we want to make sure that you're engaged in the process. So we're open to that, but I think that this makes a lot of sense from an area that maybe we don't see that much in our world, but it exists in a lot of places.
I know Scott, you have something.
Yeah, just a couple items. One other organization, and Rob mentioned earlier, that's the Alumni Project Board. So myself and all the mentors for the officers right now, I think we're about 9 or 10, including the faculty advisor that's literally not there today, but we do have a faculty advisor now. We are the ones that are sanctioned by Lehman Alpha International to work with the brothers in the active chapter. We're all covered. We've all had background checks done. So if something were to happen, the general attorney's insurance covers us. If there's a lawsuit that's going after everybody. Right now, what we have set up is a housing corporation that they qualify active members are in it. So like right now, we've got, I think the Tom, the Alpha, and the House Band are part of the Housing Corporation Officer Corps, which is, it intermixes too many things. So this new organization, the active chapter is separated from the Housing Corporation. And the alumni advisor or alumni association that does things like the newsletter Rob mentioned, that's where that newsletter, things like that would go towards the alumni association. And then if Rob and Steve and Zach and Cap and James remain in the housing corporation, they're focused on the chapter house and property. That's their focus. They're not there for the active members, they're not there for alumni, they're for the chapter house and the property.
And I guess we haven't really talked about it yet, but what we would perceive is that the House Corporation would be providing information to the Alumni Association and to the House itself about how things are running. That this would be more of a meeting run by the Alumni Association where they report out from the Housing Corporation as opposed to what we see today.
Yeah.
I agree with Steve that you were talking there.
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, so that's how I would envision it. The Alumni Association would run this meeting right now. Active members could still report, and then the Housing Corporation could still report. They're all separate organizations, but it can be held at one meeting. That's still fine. And you could have people dual hatted. So you could have a member, you could have an officer on the Housing Corporation, and if you dual hatted and have me an officer on the Alumni Association, that's not a problem. It's just that whenever we have an event, then whatever hat they're wearing is that needs to be known at that time.
Any other questions? from anyone?
Do you anticipate initially it would be the same people?
Well, we're looking for people who are interested, but if that is the outcome that, that no one does it, then I think that at least I and Rob and others have expressed that desire that we would continue that. And I think Rob brought up an earlier point that I think is good. Perhaps we stagger the vote on these so that, not everyone leaves at once. If there is an overlap and maybe, every other, they stagger the voting for House, Corporation and Alumni Association
So
in different years.
Yeah, so in both cases, the officers are elected on a three-year cycle, and the same as the directors. So in the case of the Housing Corporation, it's a much smaller number of directors. So those are instead of having the offset years like we do with the directors now in the Housing Corporation, it would be one batch of directors elected at the same time as the officers. With regard to the Alumni Association, it's more of what we've been accustomed to from a board of directors perspective, where you have 3 or 4 directors, essentially spread over 3 years. So it'd be like 3 1 year, 3 1 year, 3 1 year, like we have it set up, now. But the thought was that you offset the election of those officers for the Alumni Association and Housing Corporation, so that it's not a big flood out at the same time of those officers and volunteers. One of the notions for a motion, and so this would be something that we as the directors would have to talk about is. One of the motions, if there were not other nominees for the officers of the new Alumni Association, would be to nominate a slate of essentially the current Housing Corporation to then be replaced at a later meeting as we build momentum for the organization.
So Robbie, maybe I'm getting off base or whatever, but I just want to talk logistics on this. This is an alumni association, and we don't have an abundance of alumni here right now.
Right.
From a operational standpoint, to me, the thing that the alumni association needs to successfully do is have a St. Louis Lambda Chi alumni get together sometime over the summer, or some sort of start the process of doing like the University Alumni Association has a St. Louis chapter, a Kansas City chapter.
Absolutely. That's I think what this will hopefully drive too.
Yeah. So the goal is that this provides a structure in a local place where alumni can get together and get them excited about coming down here for Pats, coming down for homecoming, for these type of events and whatnot. So to me, our high row said put on his goals of having this type of event. If we can get one person for the Alumni Association to partner with the row on trying to get things started, because if you can get an event and we get 20 alumni at it, then you have an Alumni Association to get it started.
I think you bring up a very strong point of what we're creating here is a structure that will help support the whole house at all locations, and then we can have somebody in Kansas City, St. Louis, or other areas that we deem necessary will help drive a lot of the activities. We've depended so much on the strength of specific individuals over time to continue the process, and I think having something that is a little more structured, I think will help support the overall effort.
Yeah, one of the ideas that has been thrown out is to identify a focal in I'll call it the large pockets of alumni of Alpha Delta. So St. Louis, Kansas City, notionally St. Louis, Kansas City, Houston, Tulsa, Springfield, Missouri to some extent. If there's others that I don't know about, Denver, maybe there's several people out there. And the president of the Alumni Association would collaborate with those focals and just say, hey, how are things going, amongst the folks in your area? And we've had my impression is that the folks who are of the same class or generation do a good job of talking to each other and getting together for this and that. Three of you guys that showed up in the same car here. I mean, there's, and I know that there's some of us of my era that get together for lunch on a semi-regular basis up in St. Louis. The idea here is to help, I don't want to say formalize, but encourage some of that activities and actually some cross mixing of those generations of alumni, so that we can get to know each other as alumni even better, and then encourage engagement, especially of folks in kind of that window that don't have a lot of folks coming back down to Rolla for things. Get some of those folks from like the 80s, to the 80s and early 90s to come back down and even if it's just for a social engagement with folks.
And this will also give us an opportunity to find out how do we finance these? What kind of structures do we create to raise funds locally or to fund these alumni associations? Any other questions?
I guess I just was going, we get to talk a little bit, but is there I could throw in there a discussion, vote on this change, and then maybe we do a slate and vote on the officers for the Alumni Association to keep them at the homecoming. Does that make it easier? So like somebody said, there's not many alumni here today. If we give them 6 months time for that Alumni Association, then we can get the votes.
Temporary holding
Vote on a slate and present it at the fall.
Yeah, I mean, one option there, Scott, would be to vote today to have an interim organization that essentially would get started until an interim set of officers that would get started until homecoming, where we could have that more formal conversation.
Probably better.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I like that.
Okay.
So we'll do the voting just as the directors post our meeting here, but I do want to have folks, please, give your thoughts.
So the general proposal that was just floated is that we would agree to create 2 organizations
based on
the Articles of Incorporation.
And if any amendments to that.
And then we would basically have a temporary leadership structure on the basis of who's here.
If that's what everybody wants.
That's what everybody wants to do. And then the goal would be to have some sort of activities over the summer that gets people spooled up so they're ready to volunteer for the actual organization in the fall.
Okay. And again, if anyone has any other ideas on how to do this, we'd be happy to hear about them. And any other names that come forward, we'd be happy to entertain that too. Yes.
If you all are so concerned about being sued, why don't you acquire a umbrella policy for either the House or for the directors? To me, that's, I think virtually, I would assume most people have an umbrella policy, just because nobody carries that much normal liability insurance.
I think it's a very valid point. I think what we're trying to create is something that is not just for today, but more over time.
Well, that means you renew it every year.
No, I understand that, but I think the hope is that, and I agree with you. We've had, this has not been a big issue here, but it has been in the rest of the world. So why not create an organization that our lawyers believe create that opportunity to protect ourselves in the future? And maybe it's very minimal. Maybe we're the 1% that doesn't have to worry about it, but I like to worry about everything. So that's my
another thing is, I guess I do not personally understand. Just break it down, and I really don't care, because I'm so old, I'm not going to be around that much longer. But if you've got an alumni association and a house corporation, okay, and you're worried that if it's our combined unit as it is now, if a director gets sued, all the alumni are going to get sued. If you've got an alumni association and the director gets sued, why won't all the alumni still get sued? You know, to me, you know, those are statements you guys made.
Sure.
I don't understand that.
And one thing I've tried not to do is debate with a lawyer. What we're having lawyers telling me that have experienced a lot of these things, that this is the best structure to minimize that risk. So I've got to listen to that, I guess, and take that very seriously. But I understand that we've been in a world here that has not faced a lot of these challenges and don't really know what they look like, but they do exist, and it concerns me too.
Is this just an opportunity for bureaucracy to?
I don't think so.
Create more,
I don't think so. I think
more people with titles, like a bank?
It hasn't been my dream, but, you know, I think this is gonna streamline the House Corporation from the Alumni Association and drive us more towards making sure the House is safe, making sure it's properly funded. Shouldn't be the primary focus of this. It should be the House itself, the members, and how we keep it strong for the future. And I think the Alumni Association, I'm very excited about that part more than the legalese back at the other end of moving forward on the Alumni Association, personally.
I think the legalese is like the very minimal portion of it. I think it's that benefit of that we're going to be able to reach more alumni. Like we're going to have a separate organization to help reach out and people abroad rather than close in the St. Louis area. I think we can have more ears open to discussion that we can have between the groups.
Now playing devil's
I
advocate.
understand that. The thing they're selling is the legalese, though. That's what the speech was about.
Well, I'm saying that's a starting point. That was a point brought up that this is a concern, and when lawyers tell me there's a concern, I usually listen. So, and I don't see it being a big issue from a. But
I've been told to shut up.
No, it's a very
it's
a very valid point, and we could go on forever never having to worry about this. And I'm, you know, but I guess I think it's the right move.
I think the second point that Chuck made regarding an umbrella is a good one. Do we have an umbrella?
The council provides that. If you sign up and register as a volunteer, which you're supposed to do if you're supposed to do, then they cover you under their policy. And so it's provided. The problem is that we have a history of it's really hard to get our alumni to successfully to fill out the thing.
But it's actually as of this year, it's a new, and you can correct me, Scott, if I'm wrong, but you know, my understanding is it's not a requirement that everybody on the housing board fill out the background investigation any longer. But we do register, so there's a website that we go to through the International Fraternity, and we identify the officers and directors of the housing corporation, and those folks are covered under the fraternities.
You're covered.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. So the idea is the reason that is covered is because in the headquarters, the national headquarters on they see the active chapter as a separate organization. So if they did something, then it's on them. But right now, because we have active college students on our housing corporation, that intermixes what we've got. So now, if they did something, then
again, I want to stress that if someone's passionate about being a part of the, housing corporation and we have not created an organization that meets that requirement, we are willing to look at amendments to address those.
Yeah, and obviously with any bylaws, those are always amendable over time. If we decide that our initial set of bylaws is not aligned with what we want to do as an organization in the future. So this is just the intro to that new organization.
So would the Alumni Association have active members?
No.
Okay.
The alumni, it's just like, it'd be just
You're
like the
alumni at
university.
that point.
You're an alumnus, and
Okay.
that's right.
I was trying to do the whole separation of mine, so okay.
Yeah.
You know, we're creating another issue there. But,
Yeah, no, it's.
And the Alumni Advisory Board is all checked through the chapter.
Yep.
Correctly. Okay.
Okay, so, again, we'll vote, after the adjournment of the meeting here, with regard to this, but I just want to give folks an opportunity to discuss. Do we have, any other discussion? No. Any other new business? No. Any other go-backs for our meeting today?
Any other what?
Any other non-covered topics?
Yeah, I'd like to make some comments.
Yeah, sure.
I got a little something here, I'll just read you it. Kind of a, pep talk maybe, guys. First of all, I want to congratulate you on a much better job, a great job on getting new members this year. I'd like to also give you a few pointers for the future. Everyone needs to strive to get the highest grade point possible. A good grade point will get you through that first employment door. After that, you're evaluated on how you conduct yourself. I believe there are 3 things that make a good career life. I call it PEP. People skills, education, perseverance. You can make a good career with any one, but if you have all 3, you're ahead of the pack, which is what you all want when you get out there in the real world. You are here for a great education, to learn something. Some employer is ready to pay you big bucks to have you on their team. A lot of that something will be how to problem solve. You'll get to that job through perseverance. You are enhancing your people skills with your brotherhood here at Lambda Chi. My grade point was not stellar, but I got through and out with perseverance. And I believe the people skills I derived at this fraternity was the key to my success. When I was here, just graduating from Rolla was the great plus to get a job. Some of us know that once you get out and you're in that first job, it doesn't matter a hill of beans what your grade point was in college. Nobody asks and nobody cares. When you are out there, you must prove yourself every day and become a good employee by completing the tasks that are assigned to you. During your interview, some companies will require a very high grade point for hiring. Others will look at the total package and how you conducted yourself. There's a fine place out there for every Lambda Chi. You have a golden opportunity to enhance your people skills while you are here. Meeting new people can be a daunting task, and it takes practice to be good at it. Fortunately, this is the perfect time to get that practice when recruiting occurs. Like myself, you love this place. There are great students coming that would be an asset to Lambda Chi and would also love this place. And you would love to have them, but you have to ask them. You don't know they don't know what you know, and they need to be given the opportunity to say, no, that's not for me. After they say no, it's no longer your fault that they didn't grab the brass ring to success. By not inviting them to take a look, you're denying them and yourself of a possible lifelong friend. Some of my best friends are Lambda Chi's that I met right here 50 years ago. I am thankful that someone took the time and effort
to make the decision to ask them. We are in this thing together and need to build the fraternity. So what can we do? One of the skill sets that you need in life is to be able to sell. You will need to sell yourself in that future interview for your first job. Thereafter, you will be selling your good ideas to the boss. When you near graduation, you will want to have several companies clamoring to get you to join their company. It's a good feeling. If you can't sell, you won't be able to do your best work. How can you learn to be a good salesman? One way is practicing selling this fraternity. It's a free lesson, and when you get good at it, you will be in a better place. Is it hard? Yes, it can be. If it wasn't hard, everyone would be a good salesman. A good salesman will separate the good employee from the great. You want to put people at ease. Smile. Become genuinely interested in them. Use their name. Be a good listener. Discover what sales techniques will work for you. One technique to bring someone to your way of thinking is using feel, felt, found. When you meet someone that's skeptical, I know how you feel. I felt the same way, but I found that, and you just fill in what will put them at ease. It just takes practice. The main thing is that you need to figure out for yourselves that it is both good for you personally and a requirement for this fraternity to exist. Without members, this place will close its doors. While you are here, you're in charge, and we are all depending on you to do a great job. Pro days are here. In addition to the fine recruiting work that was done last year and great ideas from Kurt and others, I wanted to add one additional item. Last year, the official high school seniors list that I saw had one student coming down here from my area, high school area. It ended up being 14. That's correct. Not one, but 14. Because of this big difference, I would recommend that you use that list as a starting point and go to the high schools while they're still in session. You mentioned this earlier. It sounds like you might be onto this one. Contact the counselor and set up a meeting to talk to all the students that are coming. Tell them about this great place. The teachers will love to see you. They just love seeing good students coming back that have made it because they think they're the cause of your success. My high school yearbook had our pictures. When you get there to see them, in front of them, get their name and follow up with them, and get back to them when their high school yearbook is around. My high school yearbook had a picture of us and what we did those 4 years in high school. Add to that their high school grade point. Add to that their outside activities, and you can high grade all of them and bring them to your rush parties. You might be even able to summarize the data and put it on an Excel spreadsheet. You freshmen probably have the best inside track. When you graduated, you knew sharp juniors. Those are the guys coming, and the tie you have with that same high school is a fantastic plus to put them at ease. By the time they get down to Rolla, you'll be ready to give out bid quotes. I'm going to leave a book with you on how to meet, greet, and treat people. It's written in 1936. Covers a couple of hundred different people on how they made it. It covers fundamental techniques of handling people. 6 ways to make people like you. How to win people to your way of thinking, and how to become a leader. You can become a pro at this. It just takes effort.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
I got here kind of late. One of the years we talked about cameras for the house.
No, we did talk about it, but that's we'll start looking into that and comparing prices and systems and stuff.
nothing serious is happening. We just had, we've been broken into, we get short-leased, recently, so, it's just, the risk is always there, and I feel better if we can do something.
We were broken into. The big one was 2016, I want to say. It was like dirt. It was while we were under construction, so like we had like that one makeshift door. Yeah, they got through a couple of people's rooms and stuff.
Have we had anything
Recently?
We had like 3 shillelaghs taken this semester, but
they had to get in.
I mean, this door was unlocked, so I mean they just walked right in. So I mean that's on us for not locking that door at that time. But
it'd be nice to have cameras so you can just go back.
Yeah.
See who came in.
Although I would recommend that you think very strongly before you start putting video evidence of stuff out there. I mean, there's positives of having the cameras from the prospect of security, but I'm sure we don't have any underage drinking around here. But if we did, you would have video evidence of such a thing that could be used against you in the future. So think very strongly before you. I mean, I'm not against the idea. I'm just saying we need to consider the different aspects of doing it.
I need something more than
So, yeah, it's like.
Personally, I even think just fake cameras, $5 plastic ones that look, it may benefit just deter people enough to go, oh, there's a camera there. Not shooting.
That's what we did after. I
was gonna say,
we put the stickers up everywhere. It says monitored by cameras.
Again, I'm not necessarily talking against it. I'm just saying we need to consider well what direction to go before we jump to one decision or another. So
is there one person that is responsible for security, like ensure the doors are locked at night or not?
just kind of fall under the general duties of IOTA or houseman. The houseman and I are the only two with master keys, but we can give the IOTA the keys to the exterior doors. I would say 9 times out of 10 they are always locked, especially those front 2 ones. And then, every once in a while this door gets left unlocked. And it's fairly rare, but we also have a second door that closes so they can't get into like the rest of the house. So I think this door sometimes gets forgotten because of that. But that's something that we can just have someone doing. And
that would be a good, like, I don't know, if you have mail haul yard and stairs or something like that, that'd be a good mail haul yard and stairs duty, is to make sure all the doors are at least at that point of the night locked.
yeah, I think the old dining room door was the mail duty. You had to go down at the end of the night and just make sure that deadbolt was thrown. Now it was a plate glass door, so that wasn't really. But yeah, that's a personal responsibility thing on us too. So.
Any other inputs for our meeting? Any motions out there? Motion to adjourn, possible?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Arr.
Thank you. Directors, please. Let's take 3 minutes for a quick bio break, and then welcome in. Sign the vote.
Sign in. Sign the vote.
Thank you for coming.
Too much coffee. Too much coffee.
Yeah, it was good. It's not up here on it. One's trying to wake up. One's trying to wake up. Yeah, it's like 8 o'clock.
Yeah. It's nice that we
go to the parade.
Yeah. But I'm like, ooh, I just had to drive down there. Everyone trying to wake up.
Oh, Delta. That's Luke right now. Luke Altman. I think he was here.
Yeah, I know.
Right now. Yeah, Luke.
Yeah, Simmons Falls here right next to you. I want to say it's 35.
1965.
Oh, let's go back.
And we rushed 28.
Yeah, we're just taking like a 3-minute, couple-minute break.
Yep. It's good turnout.
And 3-minute breaks. After the
Yeah, one of those.
use nurse services was only.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, celebration. How you doing? Good. I'm doing good. How about yourself? Yeah, I'm in Soulard, right next to the brewery.
How have you been doing?
Not bad at all.
What'd you do with Scott?
What did I do with
Traveling.
Oh, he's in Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's down in Florida. Spring break started Friday for Robin's house. Yeah, a lot of spring break and all that stuff. I got me and Rob said he's in Florida, so I figured he's lining up with the whole spring break stuff.
More enjoyable events to really get to know. Sorry. Pee break. New memories. Things like
My brother Jack is in there either.
Yeah, it's a little family Christmas together. Yeah. I'm sure Jack's taking a couple weeks before a hobby Jack too. You gotta have a rush, a little recovery weeks, and all.
He rushed. And now we've had 1994.
I got my first census, brother. Okay. Me and the state are actually working with people and one other. I have a little speaker that I had. But me and the state, we work. Okay.
No big deal.
Not Vantage, you probably have that SAP though, for a low number.
Are you
Oh, you are? Cool. Right. Have it all one area? Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's okay.
Perfect.
Oh, the bar for.
Awesome.
I'm not sure though.
How's family?
I haven't heard about it.
Busy running around. Got a soccer game on here.
Oh yeah, that was.
I also got a game after this. They were down here walking around.
Yeah. For $400 for budget for the bar. Where's the bar?
I think.
Yeah, we did. We're actually starting a huge rehab project next month. Actually, we've got somebody digging a French drain and putting in some dry wells starting today in our backyard because we've got a huge water problem just runoff problems, and then on the
Your
20
house?
our new house, yeah.
Oh.
And then you guys want to grab chairs, and then we're
Thank you for that story. That's great. Good advice.
Now, if you do
Well,
all
those
this,
that listen, listen. Those that don't listen, don't listen. So, yeah, that helps.
So we
Well, it's a great
intend to
idea.
move from the old house.
Best place to start is at home, right? Yeah.
I would consider it. I mean, we basically what we got out of the old house. I don't know if you made it conversation, but it was generally a push. Yeah, we're not doing it from we're not doing it as a the senior house. Something to try and make money. We're doing it to make it.
I thought maybe I'd see you on TV.
You're good for a 20 year.
Yeah, we just didn't intend to move
Whoever
out.
told me, I'm like, oh, we really weren't planning on doing that last time we talked about it.
Yeah, we just been.
Who did the mural? Who did the mural?
They hired somebody.
They paid for that?
Yeah.
Pardon me. Okay, go for me.
I was curious about the flags. How does that go backwards?
Yeah. Yeah, that was the first thing someone said to me. Okay, now I can't unsee it.
Right.
Yeah. The American flag.
All right. I probably missed you. On the email of the Corp harvesting corporation and bylaws. I know that there are a couple of folks have said that they wanted to step down from being directors as we move forward, but I figured one of those might be interested in at least giving their opinion at this point.
All the reason John and I, in fact, John didn't make it because the low number of the whole crowd here, but, it's a 3-year tour. That puts us at 80. That's a little old.
Except for the fact that Rob, when he was giving me the spiel 3 times this week on the telephone, he kept saying, well, when my 3-year term is over, I'm going to be 70.
It'll be 80. So it's time to kind of move aside a little bit, let a little room for you younger guys.
I agree 100%, but I did want to give you guys to have this discussion, since this is a reorganization of what we're doing. Housing Corporation. So here in the interim, notionally, we would have some overlap, a fair amount between the officers, but the idea is to split that apart so that you can have people focused on the different pieces of the alumni engagement, I'll call it. One of the items that we'll have to discuss. I would say we probably put this off until homecoming, but how do we set up the if we go forward with splitting it up? How do we split up the financing of the alumni association? In the long term we can build separate bank accounts and have people can donate to the alumni association. I know my father-in-law is a Lambda Chi from Arkansas State, and in their newsletter that they get a couple times a year, they're having exactly the same discussions we are right now, and they're proposing a fee structure for theirs. I personally would like to try and stay away from that.
I agree. I shouldn't butt in.
No,
my memory is such that if I don't butt in,
No, you're
what the hell am I should be if that's what you guys wanna do, it's up to you. But I don't believe it should be financed by the House Corporation. If the Alumni Association should be, financed by alumni.
I almost think your alumni association should be your primary collection point. Almost alumni association should donate to the housing corporation. And if you do that, because I would think the housing corporation would almost be a large capital drive that you would go for.
Well, I think if you're gonna do that, you've gotta get a 503C if you're gonna convince people to do that. Which, one of the accounts for the House Corporation was
right.
a accredited tax deductible.
But I think it ties into, you're talking about a continual giving program. I mean, I think that's almost given to the alumni association, and then when they get a surplus there, the alumni association can decide how to.
One thing my high school does, and I realized when I went there, it was a nice place. Now it's freaking dumb. But they have just a $10 a month, $10 a year for a membership.
Yeah.
And they give away 4 scholarships a year, and you can contribute to the various scholarships. And that makes it gives them a 503C credibility. So then when you give a tax, say somebody wants to give them $10,000, $20,000, they can deduct it.
Right.
Or they can make it a non-entity.
But it was not until our big capital project here that we had the 503C.
That's true.
I mean, it's been really nice. I mean, I've taken advantage of it.
Is the alumni association, what they do, able to be a tax deductible thing?
That was my
Yeah,
curiosity.
definitely.
Right now, I think the discussion we just had was that foundation money, we're having a hard time figuring out how to use it for house money.
That was gonna be my.
For instance, I tried to donate to the foundation since itemized, and it came back as you donate to housing corp. I'm like, fine, but the big dogs,
Depends on how much you were gonna donate.
Yeah.
If you set up a foundation, like an alumni foundation, to further scholarships or things like that, besides brotherhood, you gotta throw the bullshit in. It's just like if you look at all the drawings for the house when we designed it, I don't know where they all went, talk better of it, but when we designed the house, it was all based on what can we classify as educational, the formal living room, and there is no longer the formal living room. If you look at all the drawings, that is a library, I believe.
Yeah.
And that allows